God message today. Hello everyone. Happy Saturday. Yes, I know this is outside of my usual posting schedule. Those of you who have been part of this space for a while know that I typically share collective readings every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But today, I felt an undeniable pull to come on here, even though it's not my usual time. This morning, during my meditation, I felt something powerful, so strong that I knew I couldn't wait until the next scheduled reading. My voice probably still sounds like I'm waking up, because honestly I am. But I needed to share this. Originally, I thought I was going to bring through general messages for our collective, and I did receive many of those. I even wrote them down, and I'll likely share them in another video. Maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, maybe Monday. It all depends on how I feel after this reading, because I can already tell it's going to be intense. As I was tuning in deeper, something shifted. I picked up on a particular thread of energy, one that didn't feel general at all. It was specific, direct, and urgent. I know some of you are going to feel this immediately because as soon as I tapped into it, I got chills. This message isn't just about life purpose or general guidance. It's a message that someone, a particular person, is desperately trying to reach you. And when I say urgent, I don't mean that there's danger or anything to fear. I mean that this person is energetically reaching for you, psychically, telepathically. They want to connect with you so badly, but something is holding them back in the physical world. This might be someone you already know, someone who has your contact information, yet they hesitate. They're afraid, uncertain, or struggling with something unseen. And for many of you, this is someone from a past timeline, a timeline that didn't fit. I keep seeing that this past timeline felt imprisoning to you. It wasn't yours. It wasn't home. Maybe it was a city, a job, or a phase of life where you constantly felt disconnected, like you were in a place that was never meant to be permanent. It wasn't aligned with your soul, and deep down, you always knew it. But there was one exception, one person. This person was the one thing on that timeline that felt real. They were the warmth in a cold, unfamiliar space. They felt like home in a place that never did. And here's the part that hit me the hardest. The part that made me almost tear up as I wrote this down. It was never said, but it never needed to be said. That's the exact phrase that came through, almost like a narrator describing your story. I see the two of you together in the same physical space. No words, no gestures, just energy, a silent understanding, a connection so strong that it didn't require explanation. It was felt. There was this magnetism, this pull, the unspoken desire to reach for each other, to hold hands, to embrace, to close the space between you, and yet neither of you acted on it. But here's what I need to emphasize. This was not one-sided. They felt it too. They haven't forgotten. For them, that timeline was more familiar. Maybe it was their hometown, a job they had been settled in, or a life they had built for a long time. And then you entered their world, suddenly, unexpectedly. And though you might have felt like a visitor in their reality, to them you were a light. They were struggling more than you knew. Maybe they didn't talk about it. Maybe they hid it well. But you brought something back to them. A feeling they had lost. A sense of hope, of possibility. I keep hearing, you reawakened something in them. Their zest for life, their belief in something more, it all reignited when you arrived. And yet, for whatever reason, you parted ways. Maybe life pulled you in different directions. Maybe there were circumstances beyond your control. Maybe there were unspoken fears, wounds, or timing that just didn't align. But the connection never severed. Not really. Why this message is coming through now? So why now? Why after all this time is this energy suddenly surfacing with such urgency? Because they're thinking about you. Hard. They might not say it. They might not act on it. But their energy is reaching for you. They might be dreaming of you, feeling you, wondering if you still sense them too. For some of you, they might even be on the verge of reaching out, physically this time. But fear is still there, lingering in the background. So what do? I'm not here to tell you to reach out first. That's not my message. But I do feel that at the very least you need to acknowledge this connection. If you've been feeling them, if you've been having those random waves of emotion, the sudden thoughts, the dreams, you're not imagining it. It's real. And sometimes just acknowledging it in your own heart is enough to bring clarity. For some of you, this person might return. For others, this might simply be about closure, about understanding that this bond was never an accident. It mattered. And whether or not they ever say the words out loud, the truth remains. It was never said, but it never needed to be said. The temporary path. Aiden had always felt out of place in this world. Not in the way that made him feel lost, but in the way that made him feel borrowed, like he was existing in a space never truly meant to hold him. A temporary placement, a visitor, a soul passing through on a journey to somewhere else. And yet, someone had kept him here longer than he intended. Evelyn. She had been the one thing in this timeline that felt real. Not the job, not the city, not the endless days blending into each other. Just her. The way she existed. The way her energy wrapped around him like an unspoken promise. It was intoxicating, and it was terrifying. Because he had known from the beginning, this wasn't meant to last. But she made him question everything. Maybe he could stay just a little longer. Maybe the rules of time weren't as rigid as he thought. Maybe, just maybe, she was the exception. But reality didn't bend for love. There had always been barriers between them. Rules, expectations, unspoken restrictions that neither of them had ever voiced but had always known were there. Aidan had felt it in the way Evelyn would hesitate just before their fingers brushed, in the way she would hold his gaze for a second too long before looking away. He had felt it in his own restraint, in the way he longed to reach for her but never did. The red tape was suffocating, yet the connection remained. It existed in spaces where words failed, in glances that spoke of things too heavy to be said aloud, in the silence between them that felt louder than any declaration. People noticed. They had to, because when they were together, the air shifted, conversations dimmed, the world faded into a blur of background noise while the energy between them pulsed like an unspoken language. It made Aidan self-conscious at times, made him wonder if their connection was too obvious, if the universe had made them too transparent. But did it matter? Because no matter how many barriers stood in their way, no matter how many times they walked away from each other, they always found their way back. Until they didn't, because life doesn't wait. And when the moment came, when a new path opened for Aidan, one that would take him somewhere far, somewhere unfamiliar, he jumped. He had to. But God, it hurt. Because as much as he knew this was the right decision, as much as he had always known his time here was temporary, leaving her behind felt like cutting off a part of himself. For a while they stayed in touch. Messages, calls, conversations that felt like lifelines stretching across the distance. But slowly, inevitably, the connection in the physical world began to fade. But in the other world, the world beyond time, beyond distance, it knew. Aidan still felt her, and he knew with a certainty deeper than anything he had ever known that she still felt him too. Maybe that's why she was in his mind today. Maybe that's why he woke up with the ghost of her voice lingering in the corners of his thoughts. Maybe that's why, across timelines, across realities, he could still feel the weight of her gaze, the warmth of her presence, the unshakable certainty that somewhere in some way they were still connected. Maybe they always would be. Title: Shadows of the Unspoken Scene. 1. A silent realization. Soft ambient music playing. The air is heavy with unspoken emotions. Nia, voiceover. I wasn't trying to think about him, but somehow it just happened. His name, his face, the way he looked at me, it all crept into my thoughts like a whisper in the wind. It's as if he's reaching out without saying a word. Scene 2. The Invisible Thread. Nia sits by the window, watching the rain drizzle against the glass. Nia thinking, Jace. Do you feel it too? Do you know I'm thinking about you? Cut to Jace miles away staring at his phone, his fingers hovering over an unsent message. Jace, muttering to himself, why now? Why do I keep thinking about her? He exhales deeply, tossing the phone onto the bed. His heart feels heavy as if pulled by a force he doesn't understand. Scene 3. The Distance That Changed Everything. Flashback: Nia and Jace sitting on a park bench, inches apart. The tension is palpable, their hands almost touching but never quite. Jace, softly, I feel like if I touch you, you'll disappear. Nia, smiling sadly, I'm not a dream, Jace. Scene 4. The Red Tape of Fate. Back to the present. Jace stares at a framed picture, his fingers tracing the edge. Jace, thinking, I convinced myself I could move on, that I could settle for something simpler, but nothing feels real anymore. Cut to Nia, scrolling mindlessly on her phone. She pauses on a message from an unknown account. No words, just a song link. Her heart skips a beat. Nia, whispering, is that you? Scene 5. The Unfinished Story. Jace, in his dimly lit room, watches Nia's latest post from a hidden account. His breath catches as he sees her smile, that same smile that once felt like home. Jace, thinking, she's changed, but she's still her. He closes his eyes, memories flooding back, the way she laughed, the way she understood him without words. Scene 6. A Love That Never Faded. Nia, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Nia, voiceover. He's out there somewhere feeling this too. I know it. Cut to Jace, gripping his phone. He types, then deletes. His heart pounds. Finally, he sets the phone down, whispering to the night. Jace. Good night, Nia. Title: The Energy Within. Scene 1. A new awareness. A calm, meditative tune plays softly in the background. The atmosphere is serene, yet charged with an invisible force. Riley, voiceover. Have you ever noticed how certain opportunities seem to flow into your life at just the right moment? How inspiration suddenly strikes like a message from the universe. The love and energy we cultivate within ourselves shape our reality in ways we don't always consciously understand. As Riley speaks, images of people meditating, journaling, and walking in nature flash across the screen. Scene 2: Unlocking the Mind's Power. Close up of Riley, sitting in a softly lit room, speaking with a quiet conviction. Riley: Our subconscious mind is the key. It controls over 95% of our thoughts, behaviors, and outcomes in life. The energy we carry, our beliefs, fears, and emotions, creates ripples that affect everything around us. A diagram of the brain appears, highlighting the subconscious mind as a glowing core. Riley, smiling: That's why I believe in the power of subliminals. Meditative audio tracks infused with carefully embedded affirmations. Unlike conscious thoughts, these affirmations bypass mental resistance, reshaping beliefs from the inside out. A quick montage of messages, unseen hands guiding, silent supporters watching from the sidelines. Riley, voiceover: If you're ready to strengthen your connection, not just with others but with yourself, embrace the energy of transformation. Fade to black. The soft hum of meditative music lingers. Type yes if you believe in God. Type 1111 if you believe in God.